Okay, you can go ahead and start.
Okay, great. So I am going to call this meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee of LAVTA to order at 4 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Director Hernandez.
Present.
Vice Chair Narum.
Present.
Chair Kick.
Here.
A quorum.
Thank you. So we're going to move forward. This meeting is open to the public. You may address the committee on a matter within general subject matter and jurisdiction of the LAVTA Board of Directors. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any members from the public present and wanting to speak?
Currently, we don't have any attendees in this meeting, and I didn't public comments via email.
Okay, great. I will close the public comment. Can we approve the minutes for October 26th meeting?
Hernandez will approve the minutes for October 26th.
Narum, second.
Okay, great. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Narum.
Aye.
Chair Kick.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And Treasurer's report.
Good afternoon. So before you is the Treasurer's report for the month of December, halfway through the fiscal year. And at our halfway point, we are at 39.23% on expenses and 31.6% on revenues. So our revenues are short. They're really lagging coming in this year, but we have sufficient cash on hand in our own account. So we're not having to necessarily wait until MTC pays us. So we're good there. Yes, that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a question. We've been short on revenues due to COVID for a while. Do we have any indication that there might be more support coming from the state or federal level to keep us solvent? I mean, I would like to say that this time in 2 months, COVID will be over, but it seems to be dragging on quite a long time. So are we prepared for potential many more months of this?
Yes, but let me first explain. COVID has nothing to do with why our cash flows are lagging.
Oh, okay, good.
A normal agency that has no money in reserves, what happens is the cash flow lags because we're using tax revenues. So the state controller's office gets the tax revenues and then they very slowly give you the money, right? It's generally like you don't even get a check till September. Our agency has not been in that position for a long time because we always had money in reserves. So if you have money in reserves, they will send you whatever that amount is kind of at the beginning of the year. So you have, $5 million in reserves. You've asked for 10 million, but they'll send you the 5 million. And then as the other money comes in, they'll send it to you. So we usually have all of our money by January. However, we depleted our reserves at MTC so that we could have cash on hand because we have this huge $20 million project, and getting reimbursed on that money, causes a problem. And, we're going to have a $5 million bill due and you don't have 5 million in the bank. So we've been holding that money on hand. So our reserves at MTC were low, but we as an agency had all that money sitting in our bank account. So this year, MTC was like, yeah, you've been holding that money for a while because that project's delayed. We want that money back. And so we didn't send it all to them, which is otherwise we have nothing in our bank account. We didn't send it all back to them, but we did send them back 10 million. And so that'll help with next year's cash flow. This year, in terms of our revenues, it's coming in slow because we didn't have that money in MTC's reserve. we weren't really super worried about it because we do have, even after sending that money back, because we didn't send the entire due to LTF amount back, we still have 11 million. Sorry, 11 million sitting in our LAAF account that we can transfer over. And that's actually a little more than 50% of a year's revenues anyway. So cash flow wise, we're fine. It's just technically when you look at the revenues versus expenses, the revenues for this year that were budgeted are not coming in as quickly as they would if we'd had the money sitting there. In terms of future revenues, we do have, I think it's 1.6 million in FTA funds for this year that FTA and MTC got for us because of COVID. We don't have that money yet. The grant has not been approved, but once it's approved, we'll be able to draw that down. And then for next year's budget, and Jennifer Yeamans can jump in on this, it's 5 to 6 million in ARPA money that we have for next year's budget. So, and that, ironically, that grant's been approved already, not the one we need for this year. But again, I'm not really worried about cash flow. We have plenty of money in the bank. As you can see, we have about 14 million in the bank. It's just a matter of that revenue versus expenses due to us having drawn all that money out of reserves. So we won't have the same problem next year because, like I said, we returned 10 million of it.
Okay, great. That makes more sense. I was like, that seems like, okay. Moving on. We need to forward
Yes,
this report to the board for approval. Can I get a motion to do that, please?
I'll move that we forward the treasurer's report to the board for approval.
I will go ahead and second that.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Narum,
Aye.
Chair Kick.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, item 6, legislative program update.
This one is mine. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Chair Kick. I think you kind of had a good segue into this item with your question because it's on a lot of people's minds what is coming down the pike. But just by way of background, this item asks the committee to refer resolution 04-2022 to the board for which would approve the agency's 2022 legislative program. The board does this every year, usually around this time of year, and the idea is to provide some overall direction to staff in terms of the agency's advocacy priorities for the coming year. There aren't major changes to the overarching principles behind the legislative program in terms of how we frame our advocacy. Those are still the same 4 that are included in the staff report and mainly center around protecting our existing funding sources as well as trying to continue to enhance opportunities for new funding, as Chair Kick referenced. Also just enhancing public transit's role in addressing climate change and air quality issues. Those are some of the things we do best. And then finally, just leveraging support with our partners to kind of continue to advance mobility and the state of the art and enhance service productivity. So those 4 principles kind of inform both a federal and state legislative agenda that is included in attachment 2. To help you out, because you probably remember last year's legislative program very well, I included the changes recommended for this year's program in a markup form so you can see what the differences are, but there aren't major differences. I've just made modifications just based on things that have happened in the past year versus things we're expecting to happen in the coming year, consolidated a few things. So that's kind of the basis of what we as staff are expecting to work on. The staff report just also includes updates at both the federal and state level. I think the big news at the federal level, and I'm sure you all know about the bipartisan infrastructure law. So this is a big deal for public transit operators. And so a lot of what will happen in the next year will be implementation of the law and FTA rolling out both, existing programs at higher funding levels, as well as some new programs. But there's going to be a big push here at the beginning of 2022 because the administration and many members of Congress would love to see some projects awarded before, November. So that will be a lot of what's happening in the first part of the year. But I just think big picture, it's a good story to tell, because the higher levels of funding are good news for our industry long term. This will reauthorize 5 years worth of public transit formula funds. And after FY27, when it's time to re-up the surface transportation reauthorization, that's going to be a new higher baseline for what people expect those funding levels to be. And you probably know there's a growing understanding of the role public transit has to play in the nation's, climate and sustainability agenda. So that's all good stuff. If there's any downside, it's that Congress hasn't actually appropriated any of the money yet. They're still operating under a continuing resolution, as you may know. So that will expire February 18th. And they got some things to figure out between now and then. So unless there's questions just about the federal stuff, I can move on to the state. The big news there is pretty much the governor having rolled out his FY23 budget. There are a couple things to note there for you. One is there's, modest increases in some of our key transit funding sources that flow through the state budget. They're not huge, but they're increases. It's definitely a different picture than we were looking at this time last year, or in May of 2020. So that is good news. And then there's also a one-time surplus that is currently being talked about in Sacramento, $6 billion of which the governor wants to use for transportation infrastructure. So there's a lot of discussions going on about how that might flow to agencies. So that is my report and the staff's recommendation for the legislative program. And so again, the request is for the committee to refer this to the board for approval.
So I don't want to put Mayor Hernandez on the spot, but you were just because it's kind of related, before we move on, do you want to let us know what your visit was like to Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, my visit was awesome. It was great. We were able to, so just to reiterate, it was the Tri-Valley mayors that were able to attend. I know that a lot of mayors canceled, obviously due to COVID. And so it ended up being myself in person with the Danville and San Ramon mayors, and then via Zoom, the Pleasanton and the Livermore mayors. But it was great to be able to meet with, we met with Congressman DeSaulnier, and we actually went into Congressman Swalwell's actual office there. So it was great to be able to see them one-on-one. With regards to meeting Nuri Fernandez, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of her. You should read up on some of her background. She's a pretty amazing lady, and she is the Department of Transportation, Federal Transit Administration. So she's pretty awesome and amazing, and she has a great background. She was she's worked with BART in the past, and also with the VTA, so she has a lot of experience. She is excited about what we're doing here in the Tri-Valley. So just to be able to have that dialogue and conversation, and providing transportation to all is something that they look forward to, and also to be able to get a project up and going. So it was a pretty big highlight. And then of course I was invited to go to the White House, and the First Lady invited a small group. And so I'm like, darn, I should have brought a better outfit. But not too many people are able to receive that invitation. So I was honored to be able to represent not only Dublin, but the entire Tri-Valley. And it was exciting to be able to look at walk up to that beautiful White House and just see everything that's in action and rolling, and just inside was amazing. So I can share those pictures with you later.
Awesome. Just figured it was related and was interested to hear. Can I get a motion to move this resolution to the
Can I
board,
ask a
please?
question first?
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry. I'm not being a very good chair right now.
No, it's okay. So thank you, Jennifer, for putting this together. And I generally, I think it's really good. I did have a question under the federal, the first goal, the second strategy. And, we have the overarching, to improve climate action, which I think is really, the low or the zero emission programs. And so I was wondering in strategy 2, if that maybe should be beefed up a little bit. There's reference to it, but as important as that is, I just wonder if there couldn't be expanded a little bit or a little more emphasis on that with the climate action. And making sure that we have the research funding and things for hydrogen. It's kind of long-winded.
Yeah, is the request that we if we could definitely beef it up before we bring it to the board. I just want to make sure it has the right ingredients that you're looking for.
Well,
Do you want something hydrogen specific?
No, not necessarily, but unfortunately I didn't print out the principle or the overall strategies, which I thought were excellent. And in there, I think there's reference to climate action in there and the zero emission. And then when you come over here to the goals and principles and the strategies for that, it does have it, but it just seemed like maybe there needed to be a little more, particularly for this agency that's really been on the, the leading edge of some of these things.
Okay.
That's important to us.
Yeah, it sounds like the climate nexus could be called out in kind of higher relief compared to a little bit of the jargony stuff in there, because some of those programs that are mentioned in there by name deal with that, but you or somebody else wouldn't necessarily know that, but stating it more directly would make it clear what our intentions are. Right.
Well, I just look at, your background and my background, the North America's Transit Agency of the Year, and you get that by being innovative and at the forefront. And obviously, I think one of the things is moving to, either the low or zero emission buses. And that's why I just think maybe a little more emphasis on that. And I'm not even sure exactly how I would do it because I'm not a writer, make no bones about it, but it just struck me as much discussion as we've had over the board meetings, maybe if we could just call that out a little bit more. I don't know what Brittany and Melissa think. I'm certainly open to discussing.
Yeah, I think it's important to just make extra clear, because not only is this, a legislative program that will be enacted by staff, but it's important in any public documents that we are making as clear as day to regular people what we mean when we move forward. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think adding the hydrogen wording, it doesn't hurt anything. Jennifer, I know that a lot of people, that's going to be a big topic in the next few years to come. It's already starting already, whether it's in, the buses or, the train in the future and, our transportation from Valley Link and so on. So I don't think it hurts anything.
Yeah, I might even add the word research on, no emission fuels or something along those lines. Because it's not just about, buying hydrogen buses for us, but it's also somebody doing the research to improve them, optimize them, reduce costs, the whole 9 yards, 10 yards.
Okay, and just to be clear, you pointed that out in the federal one.
Mm-hmm.
The state program also mentions zero emission fleet transition, but more on the funding side and not as much on the research side. Now, there's activities going on both at the federal and the state level in this area, so I can broadcast that into both. I just want to make it clear what you're requesting.
Yeah, for some reason, the state seemed it didn't catch my eye as much as the federal, maybe because I was in page 2 of it, but I don't think it would hurt to strengthen the state, particularly since California is, kind of leading the nation on the zero emission policies and things to beef that up a little bit as well.
Okay, I think I can run with that, and then note those in the staff report when it goes to the board
Okay.
with the committee's input.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to move forward the recommendation with the additions suggested by board member Narum?
I will go ahead and move for approval with the suggestions that board member Nurum added on there.
I'll second that. And thank you.
Okay, can I get a roll call, please?
Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Narum,
Aye.
Chair Kick.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, and contract award for LAVTA on-call engineering consulting services, item 7.
Okay, thank you. This is one of mine also. So we're going to travel down the timeline from obtaining funding to actually developing projects. And so this item before you is to approve a resolution recommending the board award contracts for on-call engineering consulting services to 3 firms: Bureau Veritas North America, Gannett Fleming Incorporated, and Kimley Horn and Associates. LAVTA has since 2011 proceeded in terms of acquiring its needed engineering support services using consultants. And we have done this through basically these on-call engineering bench contracts, whereby every 5 years we, through an RFP, procure on-call services from 1 or more qualified firms. And then as projects come up, we issue task orders to the most qualified firm for the work. And so for LAVTA, the kinds of work we're talking about would be civil projects like bus stop improvements, traffic engineering projects like the transit signal priority project from last year, you all remember, and then a host of other kind of facility-based and other stuff. So we issued an RFP, we had an evaluation panel evaluate them. There were 3 firms that were all scored fairly well in response to the RFP. There's a lot of detail in the staff report for your information, but the bottom line is that we had 3 very well qualified firms. We looked at their qualifications within the different engineering disciplines we were looking for and identified a most qualified firm for each discipline. And the idea would be, as projects come up, we would consult, we would engage with the top ranked firm for each type of work as it comes up. This particular contract award has no funding associated with it since it's an on-call, so there's no fiscal impact we're talking about today, but individual task orders could go before the board in the future if they rise to that level of procurement authority. And I think that's it. We will, with authorization from the board, have an initial 3-year base term for the contract and then 2 one-year option years that could be exercised at LAVTA's sole discretion. So up to a total of 5 years. That's how it's.
Oh, you muted yourself.
That's just me gesturing wildly over here. But yes, so there would be 2 additional option years for a maximum total of 5 years of contract. But again, this is no particular projects are being awarded today. This is just for the on-call component. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, I would recommend that the committee refer resolution 05-2022 to the board for approval to award these 3 contracts.
Any questions from my fellow board members?
I don't have any questions. I know that in the past we've worked well with these agencies and I don't see any problems with moving forward with them.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, we do this in Pleasanton, as I'm sure you both Dublin and Livermore have on-call contracts like this. And so I mean, I'd be happy to move to refer resolution 05-2022 to the Board of Directors for approval.
And I will go ahead and second that.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Narum,
Aye.
Chair Kick,
Aye.
motion passes.
And item 8, upcoming committee agenda items.
Okay, next month in February, Jennifer will be bringing you a resolution for some funding, the LC top funding. And in March, right now, March is looking a little light, but things around here change regularly. What I didn't mention when I answered your question earlier about funding and timing is that what also determines when our funds start coming in is when our claim is submitted. And the claim can't be submitted till the budget's approved. So we will be bringing the budget to the F&A committee in April for approval by the board in May so that it can be approved by MTC in June because they always take July off. And so then that brings you down to not getting approved till September. And then the money doesn't flow till much after that. So we'll be bringing that in April. May, if there's an issue with the budget, anyone wants any changes, we'll be bringing it back in May, but hopefully that won't happen. And then in June, we will be renewing the legal contract and the LAIF resolution for our local agency investment fund investments. So, and that's it for now.
Any questions?
I have no
Okay.
questions.
There's no action there. So matters initiated from committee members.
I don't have any. Well, I mean, I guess I did want to just, it's something probably super simple too. I could probably just call tomorrow. Just like maybe a small report. And I'm sure you guys you'll bring this up, but just since school just started or in a couple months, since Las Positas just started, just to kind of see how many kids, and I know we're still in COVID, see how many kids are really going to be utilizing the transportation. And, you know, the money that's associated with that. Because it sounds like now they put the fee on when parents / kids are paying for the Las Positas on there.
So you'd like to see what the ridership's looking for Las Positas?
Yeah, and like the funding associated with that.
We can do that. We can bring that back next month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there is nothing else, then our next meeting date is February 22nd. How is this the longest and shortest month of my life? 2022. And stay safe, everybody. And we will see you all next month.
Thank you, Brittany.